This one creeps up on you a little bit. I read an article today by a fellow author who was published in the Aha Moments, and here's one of them. This one really creeps up on you, which is that when you retire, okay, or when you're thinking of retiring and removing yourself from your work, and again, you're probably wondering, why the hell is this guy talking about retiring? He's seems relatively young. I hope at least you think I'm relatively young looking. However, I am or have been to this day in business for a couple of decades now. My father had actually retired after three decades, so about 30 years doing the same thing. And we all sort of get there eventually, one way or another. Some people are actually forced into retirement. But really, the point that I want to make here is that we associate so much of our identity in what we do and in our work, especially men, because we are expected still to this day, I don't care what anybody says, to be the main priority in the majority of households. I do have some friends, male friends, who are the secondary provider and take care a little bit more of the house and the cooking and things like that. But these are exceptions. This is still not the norm. So particularly men, but it can also happen, of course, with women who associate their careers with their identities to an extreme level. And what this does when you do eventually withdraw from that, one way or another, whether you're injured or temporarily not working or out of commission or whatever it is, you take a break, long-term break from work, or eventually change careers for whatever reason. That seems to be very common as well. It's sort of not permanent retirement, but retirement from a particular company, a particular industry maybe that got wiped out. There's been a lot of industries lately that have been facing that type of challenge and have been sort of becoming dinosaurs lately in terms of the industry itself, either in a certain country where it's been moved over to another country and it's being outsourced. But one way or another, we tend to associate a huge amount of our identity, and myself as well, I'm speaking for myself as well, but for many other people, we tend to put that on ourselves and really, I am the business, or I am, the master of that industry, or I am, the owner and the leader of this team. Whatever it is, the manager of this department, whatever it is, you have an identity with your work that is part of your total entity or identity. It's work is basically a big part of your overall identity, right? One way or another. So when you take that away, either in a career change or a retirement from a particular type of work, or forced retirement, or voluntary retirement, just for the sake of getting there and retiring, or selling your business because that was your goal, and then all of a sudden that's been done, and then you don't really know what your next move is. There's going to be some anxiety, there could be some depression, there could be some regret, there could be some negative feelings one way or another. So it's under talked about, this particular subject. And so I was reading an article, and I just thought to put a little bit of awareness on that, and to really make some recommendations based on this article that I just read from a fellow author who I'll name here, name drop. His name is Louis Biggers. And so he actually had published this article, and I'll link to the article in the description if you're interested in checking that out, in case you think it might help you. But basically the solution, okay, which is what everybody has been waiting for in this video, is to ultimately stay busy and stay productive and stay contributing to something. So that's why you see a lot of people that retire and then go back to work, or retire and then volunteer, or retire and then join some sort of group that has some sort of joint objective or goal, right? So at the end of the day, People are most happy when they're fulfilling whatever their goal is, whatever their dream is, whatever their objective is, um, based on the life that they've sort of fallen into or set up for themselves and carefully crafted, right? So, and if you get rid of that, it's like changing where you live, in a big way, from one city to another city or one neighborhood to another neighborhood. You're gonna have things that you miss about your old life, right? There was this thing around the corner, there was a park across the street, there was this neighbor that you liked that was always handy. Whatever it is, you're going to be losing something. There's going to be a trade-off whenever there's a change, right? Because I don't see the world in black and white, and I think that all things have, even good things have some negative things associated with them, or negative consequences or side effects of something good, right? There's such a thing as too much of a good thing. There's such a thing as changing something, a component, an upgrade in your life, and so you're gaining in one hand, but you're losing in the other hand. So not all things are black and white. So you might think, okay, this guy that I'm looking at, or this girl, or this person, whoever, who is just retired, it's a great accomplishment. They must be the happiest person. They're not working anymore. They have all this free time. First of all, some people love what they do. Some people love the people that they work with on their team. Some people just love and believe in the product or the service that they're putting out there. Some people like to stay busy all the time and have a thing to do. There's a word for it. It's called, this might actually date me quite a bit, but it's called a busybody, right? Somebody who just wants to be at it all the time, just like I can't sit still for 5 minutes type of person, right? You know who I'm talking about. So, retirement or change of job, even if it's an upgrade, or um, changing careers or anything like that, or relocating, it can always be looked at as like a purely favorable, fun, happy experience, right? But you know um, when you're attached to it all, you're attached to your clients, your team, the product or service, the ideas, the momentum, the problem solving, the utility, and just feeling like you're useful and you're doing something, you're helping somebody. It's all good stuff. And so this idea that, when am I going to retire? And I'm going to retire and I'm going to finish and never do this stuff anymore. And, I'm going to be done with it all. I'm going to pack up my stuff and it's all going to be behind me and I'll be free and all this. There's a reason why in prison, the worst punishment you can get is solitary confinement, right? I mean, if you're retired and most of your friends are still working, A, you're going to be lonely as hell, and B, you're not going to have much to bring to the table during your get-togethers with friends, right? There's going to be not too many stories there for you to tell, other than you sat on your couch and watched TV or Netflix or whatever, right? YouTube. So I think there's a big misconception around the idea of retirement. Okay, I know people who are also looking forward to maybe lightening their workload, having sort of optional work built in, semi-retirement, so you have short, a lighter schedule and stuff like, or just not having to crunch all the time, and grind it out and do these crazy days that entrepreneurs tend to do. So the next time that you think about your future and what you're doing right now versus maybe what you want to do, and you're thinking or fantasizing or envying somebody who's, sold their business and retired, or has just managed to successfully financially become independent and then retire, look at them with a slightly different lens, because most probably it's not all the rage and all the glamour and all the fun and all the freedom and purely upside, right? There's a cost to that. There's a non-financial cost of pulling the plug completely on something that you've been doing and that you're used to and that you may have not even realized is kind of important to you and that you like and that you're sort of attached to in a lot of ways. So that's it. That's all I wanted to point out and share during this video. If you could relate to this and if you liked it and if you've experienced anything of the sort, that's maybe a bit of a transition you had in your career or in your life, maybe outside your career, of having had things a certain way for a long time and then having to switch and either build from scratch and start over completely. Feel free to share it. I know people who have had their houses burned to the ground, literally, and they had to get up and restart and rebuild their whole life after that. And you know, a lot of things can be taken away from you, whether it's you who's choosing to walk away from something or something that's being taken out of your hands. Maybe you were forced to retire because you were of a certain age, or you worked a certain number of years, or you were in a certain industry like the military. I think there's maybe some forced retirement in certain industries. So feel free to share your stories, comments, ideas, and opinions about this. I'd be very curious to know if anyone has anything to say about this, because I think it's a very niche, under-discussed, under-emphasized point in our society. I think there's just more talk about, how to retire early and how to hustle and how to, et cetera, et cetera. So let me know what you think. I'm very curious. Thank you.